Yo, what's up everybody, it's Vixen here with another League starter build guide for Scourge League. This time we're going to be going over the Carrion Golem Necromancer, everybody's favorite ever since Heist League when everyone and their mom was playing this build and having a great time. Sadly, GGG nerfed it league after league and it has just felt worse and worse every league. I think it's in a little bit better of a spot this league with the mastery changes. So it's interesting to kind of get everybody's opinion. I think there's a lot of hype from several different channels releasing guides on Carrion Golem. So with that, I figured, hey, let's take a look at it. Let's see what it actually looks like and see if it's something that I would consider playing as well. So we're going to do that in this guide. Sadly, I don't have any background footage to show you guys because even though I did play it last league quite a bit, I didn't record any footage because I mainly focused on Stone Golem build guide last league. And with that, I did play a lot of both, right? So I played a lot of Stone Golems and I played a lot of Carrion Golems last league. Both Necromancers. I never did, or actually I did do Elementals, but I only did it for Stone Golems. I did not do it for Carrion Golems. So I have a lot of thoughts on the differences between the builds because I did a lot of testing myself last league, and there hasn't been too much changes from last league to this league. Of course, there's a little bit of changes, and there's definitely more changes in the in-game versions of the builds. We can reach much higher DPS in the in-game versions of the build this league compared to last league, which is pretty nice, and we have way more defense in both versions. But yeah, I definitely have some thoughts, and we'll go over that in the video. But we're just going to kind of go over all of the tree itself. It's going to be very similar to my other guide, to the Stone Golems, but there are a couple differences, so we'll definitely chat about that. We'll go over the skill and the gym links, and we'll go over the items, and then we'll go over all my little extra tidbits that I always give you guys. I have my spreadsheet with all the trade links in there. We're going to go over that. I have my gym leveling up cheat sheet. We'll be going over that, so all the good stuff. Lastly though, before we dive into the path of building, I just wanted to mention that I do stream on Twitch and absolutely will be streaming the league start. So if you ever have a question, feel free to come on over and ask away. I'm always happy to help you guys out however I can with any of my builds or any just builds in general. Link's going to be in the description below for my Twitch. Also, if you're interested in supporting the channel, I do have a Patreon link below, which is going to get you access to my Discord community where I do personal one-on-one reviews all the time in there. Alright, so enough of that, let's go ahead and hop right into the guide, and feel free to check the timestamps below if you want to skip around to different parts of the video. Perfect, so here we are in the path of building. You'll probably notice that it's pretty similar to, like I said, the Stone Golem version, because they're very similar builds. It's really only going to be a couple differences between them, and we will go over them here shortly. But if you guys have not watched that video, don't worry, I'm going to go over everything you need to know in this video as well. So first things first is in this video, in this guide specifically, I designed this whole build from the ground up. That meaning that I made all of the items myself. And the reason I wanted to do that for you guys is because I wanted to make basically the cheapest version of the build that you can make to get up and running and have solid DPS and solid survivability, right? Literally the cheapest version that you can do of this build. There's nothing crazy or fancy in this. That's going to give you like bloated DPS or anything in there. Absolutely nothing. This is the base, right? So with that, I was able to kind of spend a little bit more time in the actual leveling up process. So I did a lot more of these than I usually do. And I think that's really good because it's going to be in a league start scenario, and I'm very specific with how, especially I level up the masteries. I think it's going to be really beneficial to follow this kind of layout that I have with my points. Because it is going to definitely help you level up. Like getting this, 50% or plus 50 maximum life first is going to be absolutely huge, right? Getting the offering first is going to be really solid, especially if you just want to use like a bone offering, right? For to make your dudes a little bit tankier in the beginning because they're a little bit squishy in the beginning. Feel free, or you could just use flesh offering. You just get a little bit more damage, but there's really nothing else minion offense wise that's great in the beginning. Whereas, right, if you're going down, there's going to be better stuff later on, right? Like at this point, minions lead 20% damage is life. That's pretty good for, in the middle of the campaign. So a little long-winded, but basically the point here is that I spent a lot more time on this to make it as efficient as possible for you guys when actually leveling up the build. I'm going to probably be following this exact same tree myself when I level up because I think it's going to be pretty solid. And here's the end tree itself. Again, very, very basic on what we're going to be getting. We only have one cluster, which we'll chat about here shortly. But what I want to do here is kind of just talk about the general aspects of the build and kind of what we're aiming for with this build, how we're able to achieve pretty good DPS. We're at 4 million DPS for all of our golems. and then we are at 85% physical damage reduction, which is really, really nice. And we're also obviously capped on all of our resistances, including chaos resistance. We have pretty decent, it's not the craziest, but it's pretty decent, almost 500 life regen per second, and that's all at level 93 with very basic gear. Cool, so let's go over all the masteries, because these are new things to people, and I do want to mention a couple because they're pretty important to the build. This one is actually super solid, right? This whole wheel right here is actually crazy. Getting this wheel alone is going to give you, so it's all resist and chaos resist, and then this last one gives you a whole bunch of chaos res, and minions gain 20% of their maximum life as extra maximum energy shield, so basically it's just 20% more life. It's fantastic. This is actually going to almost cap out your elemental resistances and your chaos resistances for all your minions. That's absolutely crazy. And on top of that, we're going to get minions have 8% to all maximum resistances. So they're going to be at, I think, around like 83 or something like that, percent all maximum resistances to make them even tankier. So our minions are going to be tankier than ever this league, which is really, really nice. And another cool thing about the Grave Intentions, right? So 20% of the maximum life is extra maximum energy shield. That's going to give them a little bit of a kind of buffer between when their life starts taking damage, which kind of helps with our renewals. We only have one in this build, but it kind of helps that. You're pretty much always going to have that 5% chance to deal double damage because they're pretty much always going to be on full life. Which also kind of pairs really well with this minions each 1% of damage is life, just so that they can be as tanky as possible, right? And keep their life up as much as possible. So pretty good node there as well. Vitality has 100% increased mana reservation efficiency, and I wanted to mention this because it might be a little confusing. We do not have Vitality in our skills list, but we are using Vitality as you're leveling through the campaign up to a certain point, and that is very good for leveling up in the campaign. There is a certain point, I think you take this around level 32, 34, somewhere in there, and it really just helps you out with your auras. But there is a certain point where we're going to drop that and stop using Vitality. Let me find it here for you guys. It's this one right here at 85 points, which is going to be probably you've finished the campaign and you've just started mapping. At that point, you have path all the way down here to this armor mastery for Determination, has 25% increased mana reservation efficiency. That is going to allow us to run Determination, which is a very strong aura right now. Super, super good for defenses. So at that point, we do pick up Determination and drop Vitality. I wanted to mention that because it might be a little confusing to see that. All right, cool. So let's go ahead and move on to the next mastery over here. This life mastery is 10% increased maximum life, which is obviously fantastic for one single node. The 10% reduced life recovery rate is not really of a big deal for us. We still have 255 life. It really doesn't take that much away. Let's just show you guys. It goes down to 270, so you're losing like 20 something. It's really not a big deal. So this one is very important though. We get this, let's see when we get it. We get it around this point right here, and at this point you can start running an extra aura, right? This is all of your mana efficiency node wheel, and this one in particular, the mastery, gives you another 15%. This wheel is the reason that we're able to run so many of our auras, and I'll talk about it here in a little bit. There's one other thing that is allowing us to run one extra aura, but I'll mention that when we go over our items. Let's go ahead and click on the final thing here, and then that is pretty much it. We come down here, and this is just the minions attacks overwhelm 20% physical damage reduction. You don't pick that up until kind of later in your building your character, because it's around maps when that kind of starts mattering. It doesn't really matter during the campaign, so you get that a little bit later. And then for this, it's kind of the same thing. Regenerate 2% of life when moving. That's more for maps, so we're going to pick that up pretty late in the build. Then of course, like I said, we have one large cluster jewel. This is a pretty basic cluster jewel. You can absolutely craft this yourself. Renewal, Rotten Claws. Do note that this is an 8 passive, but you can easily just purchase a 9 passive for much cheaper, craft it yourself, and then all you're doing is wasting one single point, and then whenever you have a little bit more currency, sell it, and then go back and buy one of these 8 passives, and you're good to go. So that's just a little tip there. One thing for Carrion Golems to note though is the Fearsome Force is actually really, really good, because it does help like their cascade abilities. Their cascade ability, it spreads it out a lot. They got a little nerf, I think was it last league or the league before that, they got a nerf to their area of effect with that skill. It doesn't do a lot of their damage, but it does help with clear speed, and Carrion Golems notoriously are not as good at clear speed as some other skills. So any type of AoE, even for 3 points, 3 points getting a 60% increase AoE is definitely worth it in my opinion, and it helps out with clear speed on a skill that is already kind of lackluster for clear speed. But yeah, so that is the tree itself. Just lots of life, lots of minion damage nodes, and that's pretty much it. It's pretty basic. Let's go ahead and move on over to the skill. I guess we can talk about the Pantheons real quick before we do that. We're going to go with Soul of the Brine King, and we're going to upgrade that to Corruptor. I can't say that, but it's updated this league. It's You Cannot Be Frozen, just straight up. So super, super solid. So you want to upgrade that Pantheon as soon as possible. For our miner, we're going to go with the Soul of Aberath to help us with Ignite chance. It's not what it says there. It's also been updated, and it's helping us with Ignite damage. Very, very solid for both of those two right there. Let's go ahead and move on over to our skills. For our Carrion Golems, we have in order of importance as well: melee physical damage, minion damage, multi-strike, brutality, and impale. So your 5th link should be brutality, your 6th link should be impale. One thing to note is your Summon Carrion Golem, a level 21-0 is actually better than a level 20-20, so just kind of keep that in mind. That should be one of your maybe 3rd or 4th purchases on the build, is getting a level 21. Very, very good. A lot of damage boost when you get that level 21. As you can tell here, I have not put quality on any of these. Like I mentioned in the beginning, I'm trying to stay as bare minimum possible with all of the gear in the build, with even the gems, to show you guys really what the damage would look like just in a league start scenario where you really don't have much. Moving on to our support minions, we have Raise Spectre, Life Tap, Raise Zombie, and Feeding Frenzy. We do need the Raise Zombie in here, at least in this version of the build, because we need to get 10 non-golem minions out in the field in order to buff up our Carrion Golems quite a bit. So Zombie is going to help that there for sure. For our Raise Spectres, we want 2 Carnage Chieftains and 2 Host Chieftains for power charges and for frenzy charges. You get those from Act 7, the Ashen Fields. You absolutely have to have Life Tap on there, or they will not cast their frenzy charges and power charges that often. So just make sure you put Life Tap on there. Eventually, in the in-game version, we're going to replace Zombie with Animate Guardian, but we're not doing that yet. So just keep that in mind. We're going to do Raise Zombie for a while. One good thing to note that is better this league than last leagues is that our minions are going to be so much more tanky this league that our zombies are not going to be dying as much. That's kind of been a pain in my butt in the last few leagues. It's just having to resummon your zombies is always really, really annoying, especially when you have pretty low mana. It's not fun at all. But this league, it's going to be much better. Our minions are going to be much more tanky. For our auras here, we do have Pride, Dread Banner, and Generosity, and Enlighten. Keep in mind here, it's only a level 2 Enlighten. It's not like a 3 or 4, so this is going to be pretty cheap. Not too bad there at all. Moving on to our boots here, we have Flesh Offering, Desecrate, Arcanist Brand, and Assassin's Mark. I would do a 3-link here and a 1-link. So your 3-link being Flesh Offering, Desecrate, Arcanist Brand. So it's going to kind of automate your Flesh Offering and Desecrate for you. And then you really are only going to use Assassin's Mark on bosses or maybe some tough rare monsters as well. So you're not going to be using that too much. For your Flame Dash, we have that in one of our unset rings, and we have Convocation in our other unset ring. And for our first weapon, we're going to have Flesh and Stone with Maim and Determination. Again, remember kind of what I was telling you in the beginning. We're not going to have Determination until, around level 70 something. That would be Vitality instead of Determination until you get to that point in the build. We also have Vol Molten Shell with increased duration and Portal. So what I would do, I usually have Vol Molten Shell on my left click. However, this build, I actually forgot to mention this, the Ascendancies, we do go with Bone Barrier. So I would actually suggest doing Bone Barrier on your left click, so you automate that. And I would do Vol Molten Shell on, I don't know, some other key where you can pretty much always have it pressed down at all times. So it can give you that really big buff to your armor and like a damage absorption shield, not your armor, because we actually do have quite a bit of armor in this build. That 10k is without any flasks as well, so pretty nice. As far as Ascendancy though, your first one that you're going to want to get is Mindless Aggression. Your second one, you're going to pick up Unnatural Strength. And your third, you're going to pick up Commander of Darkness. And for your Uber Lab, you're going to go with the Bone Barrier. Very good. Moving on back to the skills. And it's also nice to have the Vault Molten Shell because you can also do Vol Molten Shell if you ever get into a tight spot. So pretty nice there. And then that is it for our skills. Let's go ahead and move on over to our items. And like I said in the beginning, this is very bare bones as far as what you need to get. I would specifically try and get all the pieces that I have like this. I kind of followed a strategy when I was creating these pieces over here with the craft item. And I'll tell you the strategy is, and I think it'll help you guys when y'all are gearing out your characters. Basically, every single item here that I had, I went with one medium to high elemental resistance. As you can see here, I went with cold, right? And then one chaos resistance. So life, one Ellie res, and then chaos res. And then I hoped that there's going to be a open suffix. And if there is an open suffix, you craft like that, the 15 to cold and chaos. If you follow that plan, you're going to cap all your resistances pretty easily with this build. So as you can see on my helmet here, that's going to be a little bit different though. This is what is actually going to have your specters and your zombies in. It's the only piece that's going to be a little bit different. With this is a bone arm, or actually you can do bone helmet. You don't have to do a bone helmet. Obviously, if you do a bone helmet, you get a little bit more minion damage. But any helmet, at least maybe get an armor one if you don't get a bone helmet, because that'll help your armor out. But you want it to be elder and at least eye level 68. And then you're going to craft with bound fossils. And we're going for something specifically like this. This is kind of a medium roll for a helmet. You're going with plus to level of socketed gems and also minion life. That's going to give your zombies and your specters the most survivability that it can with the helmet. And then obviously just maybe one resistance on there. And then if you craft a resistance or if you craft life, either one's totally fine. And every other piece has kind of got that same philosophy, right? Just life, one Ellie res, one chaos res. And they're pretty low rolls too as well. They're, like I said, there's no crazy gear in here. I did want to mention this though, the boots. As you can tell there, that's got 2050 armor. Determination is not updated in POB right now. So I had to manually input that line myself. So don't freak out when you see 2000 armor. I had to do that in order to make determination work. So just kind of move past that and understand that that's why I did that. For our amulets and our rings, we are going with +1 to minimum endurance charge. Obviously, you're not going to have that like day 1 and day 2. You get that from unveiling, rings and amulets from June missions. But once you do get that, putting those on all 3 of those pieces gives you 12% physical damage reduction. Super, super solid. Really good base physical damage reduction. And I guess one thing to mention on the rings as well, I followed that same strategy on one of the rings, but on the second ring, I took out the chaos res and I put in dexterity. So do know that as well, because we do need a little bit of dexterity for this build. For our amulet, let's talk about that real quick. You want to get as much like all attribute, strength, dex, whatever you can get on there. This is where you're going to get it. Definitely use the, what are they called? Let's click it. Critine amulet. Let's find it in here. I think they're called turbulent catalysts. I don't know what they're called. I feel intrinsic catalysts. It's the one. Oh yeah, intrinsic. It literally says it right in front of my face. It's the one that increase your attributes. So you want to use those in order to get as much strength and dex on that as possible, basically. And the last thing that I wanted to mention about the amulet here is we're going to anoint champion of the cause. Now, that does take a gold oil, okay? So if you're freaking out about that's way too expensive, it's this guy right here. The teal and the crimson is not a big deal, but obviously the gold oil is a little bit of currency. That is what's going to let us run all of our stuff here. If we take that off, let's take it off. As you can see, we could technically still do it. We just would have like no mana to do anything. What you're going to do until you get that anoint is we're going to go over to our flesh and stone. We're going to turn off maim. And there you go. Now you're good on mana. You lose a little bit of DPS. You lose about 400,000 DPS. Not a big deal though. But once you get that anointment, there you go. You can use maim in your flesh and stone. Very good. Let's go ahead and put the amulet back on. Cool. So belt darkness enthroned. It's just a really great belt for start. It's like 3 chaos, and this is a very basic jewel that you can get. Minions deal increased damage if you use the minion skill recently, and just even a tier 1 roll for minions deal additional physical damage is great. As far as our jewels down here, we have, like I said, that one large passive, which we already talked about, Renewal and Rotten Claws. That Rotten Claws is going to cap our golems out at 100% impale chance as well. That's why that is important. And we of course have one set of our Anima Stone jewels, so our primordial jewels. We have the Anima Stone, we have a Harmony, an Eminence, and a Might. So I didn't use, I'm not stacking the Eminences. So normally for a Carrion Golem build, you stack Eminences, and for Stone Golem builds, you stack the Harmonies. But I didn't do this for this one. Like I said, this is as base as it gets, so we're just gonna have those right there. And that's really it for all of these. Of course, the Clay Shapers, I guess we didn't talk about those. That should be your first purchase of the league, is getting Clay Shapers. What these do is they give you +1 to maximum Golems. Very, very good early leveling. I'm not sure how much these are going to cost. It really varies between leagues. Sometimes they're like 5 chaos, sometimes they're like 10 chaos. So somewhere between, I would say somewhere between 5 and 15 chaos, like on the first day. The second day, they're going to be more like 5 chaos. And then it just gets cheaper from there. But these are absolutely fantastic. These should be your first 2 purchases of the league. Save all of your chaos and buy 2 of these. That's going to be a massive damage increase for you. For your flasks, we do have, like I said, freeze immunity via our Pantheon, via Bone Offer, or our, what is it called? Our Ascendancy over here, Bone Barrier. We're getting Bleed immunity. So those 2 are covered. We do need Chemist Quartz Flask of, that should not be staunching, I'm sorry, that should be of grounding, so that should be, I'll fix that here for you guys, don't worry about that. It should be shock immunity. So you want shock immunity on your Quartz Flask, and for your Ruby Flask, you want Ignite immunity. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna anoint, or you're gonna enchant those with used when you become ignited, and then for the Quartz, used when you become shocked. And that should cover you on all of your ailments, and you should be good to go. For your Life Flask, we do use Blood of the Karui. It's kind of a personal choice. That's just the one that I like the most. And then going with a Rumi's Concoction is a fantastic option for your Granite Flask. If you don't want to spend the currency on that, that's honestly even fine too, because it really doesn't do that much for us as far as the block chance, because we're not really a block build. So you could go with like a Granite Flask, just a regular Granite Flask, and then maybe get increased armor on it as well, and you'd be just fine. So that's our flasks right there. Let's go ahead and talk real quick about our configuration, because I know there's lots of buzz on that too. I made sure to do this as bare bones as possible for you guys, and I'll even explain it, so there's no doubt. So you are always moving. That's for us, for that mastery that gives us 2% life regen. Are your minions always on full life? Yes, they're always going to be on full life, especially with Grave Intentions, giving them extra energy shield on top of their life. Your minions have power and frenzy charges. They are always going to have maximum charges because of our specters. I've played all sorts of builds that are minion builds, and I guarantee you guys, you're going to have maximum charges all the time. Number of summoned minions, you do have 10, of course, because of your zombies, because of your specters, all that good stuff. Have you used the minion skill recently? Actually doesn't do anything. Doesn't even matter if you turn that on. Over here, we have number of nearby non-golem minions. So that is, again, your specters and your zombies. We have 10. That's where a lot of our damage is coming from. Is Feeding Frenzy active? Of course, it's going to be active. That is on our zombies. Pride Aura effect, maximum effect. You can do initial effect, but in my experience, maximum, so basically in order for it to get to maximum effect, you have to be around the monster for 4 seconds, right? For regular monsters, it doesn't even matter if it's initial or not, they're gonna die instantly. Where it matters is bosses. And you're always gonna, if the league start build, you're never gonna kill a boss in under 4 seconds, right? So you're always gonna be having a maximum effect if you're kind of playing it right. Stance is, of course, Blood Stance, which is going to be our Flesh and Stone. And that's all I have. Everything else is normal. Is this an enemy? So, yep, we selected Cyrus. So this is very accurate DPS. Very, very accurate DPS. No question about it. Cool. So that is the build itself. I don't think there's anything else that I wanted to talk about here on the build. I'll do the Stone Golem, Carrion Golem comparison here at the end. I think let's go ahead and go over this other stuff first. So first and foremost, I am going to have, of course, the trade links. So check the description below for the Google spreadsheet that I have. It's going to be one way that you can get all the trade links. The second way is through the this thing right here, Better PoE Trading extension. You can do it in Chrome, you can do it in Firefox, and you can do it in what I have here is Opera. So download that, it'll be linked in the description to download it. And there's been some questions on how to actually use it. So I was going to show you guys real quick how to actually use this. And it's a fantastic app. It's basically my spreadsheet, but embedded in the Path of Exile trade website. So super cool, right? So like here's Clay Shaper. You just click it, and then there you go, pops up. Super cool. The only thing I actually did want to mention to you guys, I might have to update this tomorrow on day 1. If this is taking you guys to the standard, you obviously don't want to be purchasing Clay Shapers in standard. You want to purchase it in Scourge League. So just note that if it's not working for you guys, you might have to manually do that. I'll try and do it myself to change all these to Scourge, but just note that if it's doing that, you can always just go back, and then you can switch it to Scourge. It would be right over here, Scourge. Cool. But in order to actually get this to show up, how do you do it, right? So you go down here to import folder. We're going to click that, and then you import code right here. Okay. Now, a lot of people have been confused on this probably because of Path of Building, what we're used to, but you're not going to copy this. This is the actual link to the text bin. Don't copy that itself. You actually want the whole code. So you're going to copy the entire code by either clicking this button or just kind of clicking everything and then right clicking and copying. And you go back to here, and then we're going to import folder, right? And then we're going to paste it, and there we go. It's done. We can save it, and it'll pop up just like I have right here. So super cool. I'm going to personally be using this like instead of my spreadsheet. I used my own spreadsheet last league, but this league I'm going to be doing the better PoE trading app extension for myself. So pretty cool on that one. I'm also going to have linked in the description for you guys the gym leveling cheat sheet for a league start scenario. So if you guys want to check that out as well, you certainly can. Let's go back to the Path of Building, and we will talk about the infamous question, right? Carrion Golems versus Stone Golems. Oh boy. So I've done a lot of testing myself. Okay, I've played both in every scenario of the build. I've played it in a league start scenario, basically like no gear, right? You're leveling it up fresh. I did that with Carrion Golems, and I did it with Stone Golems myself last league. And remember that there has been very minimal changes between like the gyms themselves in a league start scenario between last league and this league. So it's going to be playing very similar, and I literally did both. So this is coming from personal experience. Where my head is at right now is, first off, the nostalgia of Carrion Golems is awesome, right? I think all of us love Carrion Golems in the first place. They jump around, which is better than Stone Golems, which they roll around like freaking idiots, right? But the Carrion Golems jump around to packs, and it makes for clear speed to be a little bit better. And when I say a little bit, I literally mean a little bit. It's not that noticeable. It's a little noticeable, but it's nothing too crazy. 4 million DPS for the gear level investment that I have in this build is actually really solid. So I think that damage is totally fine. Like, you could play this Carrion Golem build and have a great time and be doing tons of damage, and that'll take you all the way to tier 16 maps, and you're chilling, right? Basically the same build, like literally almost everything the same gear, almost the same tree, and almost the same skills, right? With Stone Golems, you're actually doing 5.5 million DPS. Now, granted, it's a little bit different because they're slamming the ground, whereas this 4 million is like basically like their normal basic attack, right? But again, from my personal experience, I'm telling you guys that Stone Golem just does more damage, period. Even though the fact that their slam only happens, I think the base is either 3 or 4 seconds, and once you're stacking enough Harmony Jewels, right, they're getting, I'll show you guys, right? So Summon Golems have 45% cooldown recovery. The more you have of this, the more often that they're slamming, right? And their slam is what's doing most of their damage. So, and again, I'm comparing this apples to apples right here. So even the Stone Golem build with only 1 Harmony still does just way more damage. I think it was 5.3 million DPS over 4 million, right? Where you see that the most is on bosses. You'll definitely see it the most on bosses. I do think in a league start scenario, Carrion Golem is probably better for, like, you know, doing your mapping, progressing your Atlas. I think it's going to be a little bit smoother with the actual clear speed of maps. I think when you get up to, you know, the high tier maps, red tier maps, and if you're maybe even doing bosses, I think at that point, Stone Golems is probably better for the actual bosses itself, because the clear speed really isn't too much of a difference, guys. It really isn't too much of a difference. But where it becomes more of a noticeable difference is when you start getting into like the medium budget and the high budget. At that point, yes, the stone golems are doing way more damage. In my in-game min-max build, which I haven't released the POB yet because I still have to do some testing, my stone golems are doing 39 million DPS, and the exact same build with same gear, the Carrion golems were doing 31.5 million DPS, right? So that's still great, right? 31.5 million DPS is fantastic for a min-maxed build. But it's about, you know, what, 25% less damage. So it'll really come down to, I think, how difficult the Uber content is. Is the Uber content gonna require like 40 million DPS, or is, you know, 30 million DPS totally fine? Is 20 million DPS totally fine? And now it's just like way overkill, right? I think that's going to be the question. I think another big point is, guys, play what you want to play. Like, if you guys like Carrion golems, you know, if you like this maybe an MTX or something, I like the celestial Carrion golems a lot. That literally might influence you to play Carrion golems over stone golems. If you like stone golems because they do a little bit more boss damage, play stone golems. It's all good. I mean, I guess one thing to note is stone golems are going to have more life regen. They're going to have probably around, I think it's like 750 to 800 compared to, you know, what, 460 here. So we'll have more life regen, but that's kind of it. There's really not too much difference between the two builds. I know a lot of people like to say, stone golems are so much better, or Carrion golems are so much better, and their way or the highway, right? But it's really not, guys. Play whatever y'all want to play. I've done both myself. They pretty much feel almost exactly the same in like the grand scheme of things. And it's literally also, by the way, guys, a single gem swap, right? It's the exact same skills here. You would literally just take out Carrion golems and you would put in stone golem. Granted, it's a blue socket for a red socket, right? But if you have like a tabula rasa or something early on, you literally can test it yourself by just swapping the gem. And I would probably suggest that for you guys, maybe, right? So maybe level up a stone golem and a Carrion golem and just try it yourself. You know, see which one you guys like. The whole build is the same, and just kind of see which one gets your feels a little bit more, right? I'm not sure which one I'm going to do personally yet. I think I might try Carrion golem. I don't know. Maybe I try stone golem. Maybe I try Carrion golem. How about I even, guys, y'all tell me what y'all think I should do. Do you guys think I should do stone? Do y'all think I should do Carrion? I'm interested to see what you guys are doing too. Are you guys doing Carrion? Are you guys doing stone? You guys let me know. I do think as well, I'll give you one little more tidbit of information. I've been doing tons of POB theory crafting with the boys today. In a min-maxed situation, doing 25 million DPS, I think we actually go elementalist in like Uber content. It's looking really good. It's like crazy tanky versus necromancer, mega tanky, and you're still doing 25 million DPS as Carrion golems, by the way. It's about 33 or 34 million DPS as stone golems as an elementalist. That's just crazy. That's more than enough damage, I think, probably to do the Uber content, and elementalist is mega tanky. You're talking about like 1200 increased life regen. You're talking about a flat 90% physical damage reduction without armor even taking into account. And you're talking about the primordial Aegis shield for a 2000 elemental shield. It's a little bonkers. But personally, and people have been asking me as well, Necro versus elementalist. I think Necro's the call for both stone golems and Carrion golems until you get maybe into like the end game and you're kind of min-maxing your character. And at that point, I think elementalist is a little bit better. Or if you don't like switching, you could always just play elementalist to begin, right? It's all about kind of what you guys just enjoy at the end of the day. But yeah, I think that's all I got for this one. I hope this video wasn't too long. I think it was probably a little bit longer than my other guide, so apologies for that, but I hope I got you guys everything that you need to know about this build. I do think it's going to be fantastic. I think both builds are going to be fantastic, and whichever one you guys pick, I think y'all are going to have a great league start and have a good time. Yeah, that's all I got. If you guys have questions, let me know in the comment section, and I will try my best to answer every question that you guys ask. And that is all I have for this one. That probably will be my last league start guide. because as you guys know, it's coming out tomorrow, and you guys might be watching this and the league's already out, but this is probably my last league start guide for now. I will absolutely be doing build updates for all of the builds that I've released so far, so definitely check out that, and come over to my Twitch. I'm going to be streaming this weekend doing the league start as well, so you guys can follow the build if y'all want to kind of see how it's going before maybe you guys pull the trigger on whatever build you want to play. Stop by, ask questions. But yeah, that's all I got for this one, guys. I will catch y'all in the next one.